These are the iPhone 17s, and this should be one of the most interesting years for battery life ever. Because on one hand, you got this new iPhone Air, which is so thin it looks like it's going to last about 12 minutes. But then on the other hand, you've got the 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max, which Apple say offer an enormous leap in battery life. So let's find out how each of the new phones compare against each other. So that's the iPhone 17 Pro Max, the 17 Pro, the Air, and then the base 17. How they compare to last year, for which we've got the top-end 16 Pro Max, and then the base 16. And then finally, how they compare to Samsung with their flagship S25 Ultra. We'll make this as close as possible to how I would actually use my phone in a real day. So let's start off by following along to a workout from my favorite gym YouTuber. And there's a pretty clear phone that I'm rooting for. This one, the base iPhone 17. Because this guy has already inherited just about every previously pro iPhone feature you could want. So if it also has pro battery life, then I mean, that's it. Almost no one ever needs to spend more to buy a Pro again. Okay, that's our gym session done. It's actually been a full hour since we unplugged the phones. So there is absolutely no way that the 17 Pro Max and the 16 Pro Max over here are not lying to me right now with this 100% remaining figure. Get out of here. But it's definitely too early to draw any kind of conclusions. So let's jump over to Slack. This is what we use in our team to talk to each other. I'm going to ask everyone to compliment or roast the iPhone 17 phones. Your choice. And while we wait to see if a single person decides to compliment, we should talk about the elephant in the room with this generation. The iPhone 17 Pro and the Pro Max are now different depending on which country you buy them in. So some countries like the US will sell the eSIM only versions and others will sell the physical SIM versions, which we've had before, but the difference this time is that the eSIM versions actually have a larger battery capacity, about 5.5% bigger for the Pro Max and almost 7% on the normal size Pro. And to be fair, I think in concept, this is great. I totally get why Apple is so keen to axe physical SIMs. Like, the only benefit of them is that they make it a bit easier to switch from one phone to the next for some people. But in a modern 2025 flagship phone, where most other things are being optimized on like a nanometer level, it does feel pretty wasteful to have this random large chunk of plastic, which needs its own SIM tray and SIM reader and housing. And the difference in battery you're getting by removing this stuff, 5.5% and 7%, these are pretty enormous numbers. Like, that's actually bigger than the average difference in battery capacity between generations of iPhone. Okay, that's probably enough of Slack. It's getting a little weird in here. So let's flick over to some lunchtime Instagram doom scrolling. Now, one thing to pay attention to is if we look at current battery percentages, then well, actually A, the iPhone Air's battery is already starting to slide comfortably into the 80s, but also B, there is, at least right now, almost zero difference between my iPhone 17 Pro Max and the iPhone 16 Pro Max, which kind of brings me to the other side of this eSIM coin. That given that I'm in the UK, one of the countries that has physical SIMs and therefore smaller batteries, are these new phones even going to be an improvement? While it's great that Apple is increasing the size of the batteries for eSIM users, is that the only reason that they're able to say these new Pro iPhones have this enormous leap in battery? Do you just not get one of the key selling points of the phone if you're buying in, well, most countries? That's what we need to get to the bottom of. Now, the other thing that's very surprising is that even though we're now closing in on 3.5 hours into this test, the iPhone 17 isn't really outperforming the iPhone 16 at all. Apple claimed an absolutely staggering 36% longer lifespan. So even though you kind of expect not to see the fully optimal figure in real life, it's very surprising that we're not seeing any improvement right now. Bear in mind, we've done a lot of things to control this test. Like, all phones are on their latest software. The room is set to a controlled 16 degrees C to be the average of indoor and outdoor temps with a fan blowing at them at all times, etc., etc. And so this should be a 100% apples to apples comparison. The only thing I can assume is that because Apple measures battery just using video playback time, which is like the thing that would benefit from the new ProMotion display on the iPhone 17, maybe that figure doesn't very well capture the varied, messy reality of using lots of different kinds of apps. So we are now approaching the 5-hour mark, which it's actually kind of crazy in itself. Like, when I first started doing these battery tests years ago, some phones were starting to die at this 5-hour point. And yet here we have the iPhone 17 Pro Max currently in first place with 73%, the 16 Pro Max still on 71%, and then the Samsung very close behind with a sweet, sweet 69%. So now, after subjecting myself to an hour and a half on X, which It's more than any sane man should have to do. Let's unwind by opening some Pokemon booster packs. One thing I was quite concerned about, but that doesn't actually seem to be causing any issues here, is iOS 26. When I was running the beta on my own phone, this software didn't just drain my battery, it waterboarded it. But I guess now we're in the final release, the optimizations have come through. And I gotta give credit, considering that there are now like a bajillion lighting calculations occurring every time you do simple things like pull down your notification shade. It's pretty impressive that it's not completely killing the battery, potentially helped by the new adaptive power mode, which makes the software now much more aggressively cut down on background apps and processes. Now it's time to really cause some pain. We're going to open up the cameras, flip over to the front, and record 4K video at 60 frames per second. And this is one of those tasks in which optimization is only going to help you so much. You can pretty quickly notice the iPhone Air starting to drown, which makes sense if you think about it. Like, this phone has a screen that's larger than the base iPhone, so that's going to need more power. It's got the A19 Pro chip, which again will probably need more power than the A19 in the base phone when you're pushing it. It's got less power to give with a smaller sized battery, all topped off with titanium sides that aren't going to get rid of heat nearly as well as the aluminium that you get on all three other new iPhones. And you know, the hotter the phone, the faster the battery depletes. And so it only takes until 7 hours 18 minutes for the Air to die completely. That's a pretty early KO. And from this point, I'd say let's just fast forward this test till the end so we can get to the results. But I do just want to make clear, that is a very different result to what Apple was claiming for the Air. Apple said that this phone should have the same battery life as the iPhone 16 Pro, but that phone should last longer than the iPhone 16, which in itself is already leagues ahead of what the Air's just done. So maybe the C1X modem that only the Air gets may give it some power efficiency gains when you're on cellular, but how much difference can that make? This test makes me very doubtful that the Air will actually give most people Pro levels of battery. Oh, there's the iPhone 16, and then the iPhone 17, and after a large amount of time, the other phones do eventually follow suit. So 17 Pro goes onto the ESR Qi 2.2 wireless charger, our sponsor, to see how fast it can juice back up when you're giving it its maximum 25 watts of power. And let's talk results. So squarely in 7th position is the iPhone Air with 7 hours 18. And I don't think that's terrible battery life. It's about the upper end of what I expected given how thin the thing is. It just really makes it tangible how much you are giving up to have a thin phone. And it pales in comparison to even 6th position, the iPhone 16, which managed to last a whole extra 2.5 hours, which means the iPhone 17 is... which puts the iPhone 17 in 5th position with 10 hours 28. And I'm glad to see that it is conclusively better than the 16s, but I gotta say, I did also expect that gap to be larger. 4th is the iPhone 17 Pro, which I can show you while it's on this charger. Again, pretty small step up from the 17. I mean, this has been true for every single generation in my experience. The battery life you get is not really about whether you go Pro or not. It's really just what size of phone do you get. Because that leaves all of the big guys. So in 3rd is the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra with a pretty monstrous 11 hours 58. Then the iPhone 16 Pro Max did even better. It wasn't a massive jump, but an extra 15 minutes longer is still something, which leaves the iPhone 17 Pro Max top of the pile with 13 hours to the minute, which is on one hand very impressive, and it's good to see the benchmark constantly being pushed out. But at the same time, this does reinforce my suspicion that the whole enormous leap claim was referring to the eSIM-only models, who in this test would have lasted approximately a whopping 13 hours 45, and that for anyone not getting those models, I'd revise the wording a little bit more to expected step. Okay, it's been 30 minutes and our iPhone is on 56%, which is super impressive because that's more than what Apple is saying their wireless charger can do. But yeah, I mean, anytime a friend asks me what wireless charger to buy, my answer has always been ESR because there's just nothing missing. It's 3-in-1, so it charges your phone, your watch, and your AirPods at the same time. It comes with the power brick and cable you need to get the max speeds for all of them. And it has Cryo Boost, which actively cools the phone at its main heat source, the logic board. It means your phone can stay charging at maximum speed the whole time, even if you're using it while it's charging. So link below to grab one.